of today, we would have hedged our bets on fans standing trackside in their shorts and t-shirts with a cold beer.
No way.
Without any waterproofs or any umbrellas around them. So quite remarkable how the conditions have improved through the day. And we actually have blue sky overhead and a bit of sunshine for, I think, the first time today. So things are looking up after a bit of a grey start to affairs. This is, well, the championship leader, Domi Egeter, coming here in fine form, not just in the Moto E World Cup, but also World Supersport, where he's just been electric all year. And Egeter, well, as you mentioned, Matt, will be going into Q1, I think, for the first time this year.
Absolutely, and he's got good memories from this place earlier on in the year, getting victories here in World Supersport as well, so he's probably the rider who's got the freshest experience here on the grid. Yeah,
and if I'm not mistaken, it's the first 8 riders from free practice that go into Q2 automatically, right?
Yes.
And then from 9 and 10 down. So we will actually see Jordi Torres and Hector Garzo in Q1.
That's very important.
Unlike the graphic that we just saw.
The graphic was wrong, yeah. That's the second race in a row we've been caught out by the graphic, unfortunately. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, Neil. Yes, and we can see it on our timing screens as well. Hector Garzo and Jordi Torres in this one. So hopefully next time, Lockie, next Moto E round, we'll get it bang on. Excellent. So let's have a recap of the state of play coming into this weekend, Neil, shall we? Dominic Egeter, of course, leads the way by 8 points in the World Cup classification ahead of Eric Granado. Mattia Casadei is behind them with 61 points, and Matteo... sorry, this is the World Cup classification from previous. That's that I completely missed out Mugello. That was the wrong file. What am I on about? Forget me. Mugello was the last Moto E rounds that we had.
It was, yes, exactly. And we had 2 cracking races there at Mugello. Real typical Moto E stuff. It was like, well, imagine an electric version of Moto 3 there, with about 5 guys fighting for victory down into San Donato at turn 1.
And Mattia Casadei, obviously one of the riders who had a bit of heartbreak previously as well. He would have enjoyed more success than that, was pinpointing Mugello for great success, but sadly not. Matteo Ferrari, though, a very good run out for him, wasn't it, of course?
Yeah, Matteo Ferrari projected himself, or got himself back into the World Championship fight after a really strong round, second and first in front of his home fans. He always seems to perform really, really well when he's in front of the Italian fans, doesn't he, Matt? Seems to up his game, and that has brought him back into the World Championship as well. Egeter obviously leading affairs ahead of Granado by 29 points. And then Ferrari sits third, 30 points back of Egeter. So perhaps Ferrari and Granado will have looked at what happened today with the iffy conditions, and maybe they might see a little slip here from Domi Egeter. Big session for the championship leader here, 10 minutes ahead. But thankfully, these guys, for the first time today, have fully dry conditions for this session. So this could actually play into their hands come Q2.
Yeah, exactly. The 2 riders who do manage to go through, they'll have a bit more track time and experience. It'll just be then sort of luck of the draw, I suppose. Who's got the best base setting for the riders who otherwise will be going through there? How quickly can they adapt in these now fully dry conditions that we've got here in Moto E this afternoon? There's Sicario Kubo also in this session as well, the number 78. He's got Maria Herrera going around the outside of him. Good to see Maria out on track at the moment. So recap of what we had last time out, the state of play coming into this one then. Dominic Egeter does have 123 points to his name after a victory and a second place in Mugello. Then Eric Granado second. It's not Mattia Casadei third, it's Matteo Ferrari in third with 93 points. 1 point separates Eric Granado and Matteo Ferrari. Mattia Casadei got 74 points, and you've got to say it's going to be a bit of a tall order for anyone else to really bring in the points to haul those guys in. We are at the halfway stage through the season. We're actually starting, weirdly, the second half of Moto E here this weekend. 6 races left on the calendar. There is Dennis Earndew watching on.
Yeah, 2 of his teammates obviously in this session with Garzo and Escridge. So Dennis Earndew had a typically all-action day in Moto3 earlier, as we see yellow flags in sectors 3, 4 and 1, so not too sure exactly why that is at this moment. Oh, and Takario Kubo has had a crash on his outlap, so that's not good for the Japanese rider, who had a big old crash in the second race at Mugello. Real scary kind of high side at the Biondetti chicane. Thankfully he didn't suffer any injuries from that, but Kubo, well, that's I guess that's his qualifying over.
Yeah, sadly so. He'll be starting from the back of the grid for both races this weekend. This is Jorge Torres then, the number 40 World Cup winner, of course, the reigning World Cup winner now. He's obviously returning to action this weekend after that leg break suffered in the crashes he had in Le Mans and being collected by other riders. He did say in yesterday's press conference, how am I feeling ahead of this one? Well, I'm feeling fine. I feel very good in the gym, working on the other motorcycles. But, of course, with the slight weight difference that you do have with Moto E bikes compared to perhaps some of the training bikes he's on, like a flat tracker or whatever, he needs to see how he gets on this weekend. How is the fitness? What can he cope with? But fortunately for him, the races are much shorter than full Grands Prix.
Yeah, but if you're making your comeback from a broken leg, this has to be one of the more physical tracks on the entire calendar. So I think Jordi was under no illusions on Thursday that this was going to be a difficult one. You can see there yellow flags at the Gert Timmer chicane still being shown. So all these lap times, I think, are going to be cancelled.
Yes, they are, correct.
So they're going to have to go again.
Well then, let's pass in the meantime down to pit lane then, because Fran Wild has managed to catch Nicolo Canepa, no less. Take it away, Fran.
I have indeed, and it was literally catch. Just stopped you right in the middle on your way. Sorry, Nicolo. Just wanted to say, from your perspective, obviously you're straight through to Q2. Will this time in Q1 maybe actually be an advantage for those who are in it, after obviously we had a very wet FP1 and then no FP2?
Yeah, I think it can be an advantage because 10 minutes more of dry track time could be really helpful, but it's also kind of a gamble because you have to be in the top 2 to be in Q2. If you are not in Q2, then it's for nothing. So for sure for the top 2 guys in Q1, they will be super fast in Q2 as well.
But you still wouldn't switch positions?
No, at the moment, no. I am happy where I am.
Thanks for talking to us, Nicolo. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the ever happy chappy that is Nicolo Canepa then. So pretty sure these laps won't stand, as in the ones they're on at the moment should be okay, I think. But I think so. The previous ones that they had set won't really stand at the moment, so the order will change. Time from Garzo potentially coming in. Goodness me. So we know Moto E bikes love high-speed corners and this and that and the other, don't they? So look at the way they just carve their way around the TT Circuit Assen. Isn't it glorious? We of course came here last year for the first time ever. Eric Granada got that victory. The most viral moment of that race, of course, was not anything to do with his victory. It was him giving his mechanic a black eye in Parc Ferme. One of my favourite Moto E moments of all time. But there we go. So across the line they come, and Garzo and Torres. No, it's Garzo and Aegerter currently set to go through. So big shuffles going all around. As we see, lap times were cancelled plenty due to yellow flags.
Yeah, good time that from Garzo in the slipstream of Jordi Torres for the second half of that lap. And well, I think Garzo was maybe getting a little held up from Torres there, as we see Takario Kubo has managed to get back to the pit lane. Thankfully he looks absolutely fine. Here's
what happened to him then, into the final turn. Oh wow, yep, and a high side coming out of the final corner, and that's not what you want, is it?
A big old bang. Yeah, for Takario Kubo. He's had well, 2 now pretty big high sides in the last 2 rounds, and all he can do is climb to the side of the track. You see his visor was knocked off there as well, so real shame for Kubo, who up until Mugello, Matt, had been one of the kind of outside players for the championship, but that's going to really hurt him, coming from what, 18th on the grid for both races this weekend. Yeah,
he's going to have to do one of those awesome comebacks that we do actually see fairly often in Moto E now, don't we? Thinking back to the likes of Matteo Ferrari at the Spanish GP last year. He gained up 12 positions from P18 to P6, and then we had Mattia Cassidy at the French GP last year as well, P15 to P2 as well. So it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. But another huge handicap for Okubo is that he's basically going to have no dry experience this weekend. Correct, going into the race tomorrow. So that is, I'd say, a real problem for the Japanese rider. Here is Kevin Znoni, who's been
all crossed up coming through the GT chicane.
He's been in good form off late, has the Italian. He goes second now with Garzo fastest, although I think that lap time has been cancelled. No, it's
oh my
second.
Goodness, it just can't cope with it, can it? It says he's P2, but he's moved down to P6. And
I think he is in P2, Matt. Certainly on our timing screens that we have in the box here, he's second behind Garzo. So Domi Egeter here has a really important lap time coming up, because he does not want to be outside the top two at the end of this session. That will give him a lot of work to do, and especially when Granado, Ferrari are looking so strong. Big lap time then coming up for the number 77. He is on a personal best coming through split number 1.
God, listen to this thing absolutely howl its way through. There we go. Goodness me, getting a bit sideways. You can see the heat on the rear tyre, the surface temperature soar as he torches it through this part of the circuit. He is up at the second split then, so a good lap coming in from Dominic Egeter, using all the experience he's gained throughout this part of the year as well. He's already been here and gotten some victories in the World Super Sport Championship, of course leading the charge in that, and MotoE this year. Could he pull off something very, very special indeed and win both the MotoE World Cup overall and the World Super Sport Championship? And as we watch Egeter carve his way through the final sector there, let's pass back down to pit lane with Fran Wilder. She's caught Matteo Ferrari.
I have indeed, looking very chill as one of your biggest challenges puts in this lap. Matteo, how are you feeling now we've got some sunshine? It's pretty different to what we saw this morning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a different Friday. This morning we started with wet condition, but we were fast, so I'm happy about this. Now, different condition, we have to see now the other rider in Q1 to see the lines and the grip of the asphalt, but I'm ready.
Always the classic quote. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fran. And Matteo Ferrari, always good value for money, isn't he? As we see, it's Egeter and Garzo who are in the driving seats to be heading through to that next one. Kevin Zanoni's timing thing is having real trouble. It's not changing on our actual timing screens here, but the TV graphics is having a real difficult one, as we see the mechanic just stretching as far as he can out.
For Kevin Zanoni.
Yeah, for Kevin Zanoni.
I thought he was going to fall off the side of the pit wall there. He was leant over so far. But Zanoni is in 4th position at the moment. And, well, Egeter is a tenth of a second off as he comes through the chicane, Ruskenhoek and Steckenval at the end of the back straight. I think Jordi Torres is going to struggle to get inside the top 2 positions here by the looks of things through sector number 2. You can see the one of the Tech 3 runners just behind. Garzo is not far away. Garzo could be on course here to maybe better Domi Egeter's time, depending on how he manages this final sector of the track.
Through Mavenmere we come, and then it's towards Hoogheide, the High Heath, as it's known in English as well. This is Ramshoek with Jordi Torres then. 3 absolutely sensational corners on this wonderful ribbon of asphalt that we call the Cathedral of Speed, although I know some people hate us calling it that, don't they? Don't worry, I've got it in my intro for tomorrow.
I saw one press release calling it the University of Motorcycling yesterday,
I saw that too,
entertaining.
Yeah. That's quite the difference. Well then, checker flag is out. Torres P3, Garzo P2 and Egeter already back in then. So that's Garzo and Egeter going through to Q2 then. Kevin Zanoni shakes his head, not happy with that. So then it's time to give a quick recharge and for the bikes to head back out then as the fight for pole position begins. So great job, well done by Egeter there then in that short session. P1 and Hector Garzo P2. That's more like it from Hector Garzo.
Big sigh of relief then for Domi Egeter, who manages to come through Q1. And well, we're going to have a couple of riders then coming through the field tomorrow, namely Jordi Torres and Kevin Zanoni. Zanoni, as I mentioned earlier, has been in decent form. He was obviously fighting for the podium up until the last lap at Le Mans. And of course he was fighting for victory in the first race there before he crashed out with just 2 turns to go. He's definitely been a rider that has stepped up in the class this year, looking like a completely different performer than what we saw a year ago.
And you can see here, even though it's on the cool-down lap, Torres still trying pretty hard. Every lap counts in this game, especially when you've just had a wet session this morning, and that's it in terms of your running for the day. That was a good performance from Torres, considering all he's been through. So P3 for the reigning winner.
Yeah, I think if you told anyone after they'd just seen Jordi Torres have his leg run over at Le Mans 2 months ago that he'd be making his comeback at the Dutch TT, well, we would have been very surprised. But Jordi kept in really high spirits. Actually came to Mugello, didn't he, to try and pass a fitness test to ride there. But that was always going to be a very, very tall order.
Ambitious. Yeah, fair enough to Jordi Torres then. He was around in Parc Ferme with Casadei, cheering his teammate on. Casadei very happy to have him back, he said yesterday in the press conference. But that's the end of the day's action for Jordi Torres. There doesn't look in too much discomfort, does he, Neil? This is the point where he takes his helmet off and he lets out a massive "ah!" But no, not too bad. Not too bad for Jordi. Let's take a look at these results from Q1 then. Dominic Aegerter goes through to Q2 directly with Hector Garzo. They were separated by 0.123 of a second. That's a nice round sort of figure, isn't it? Jordi Torres third from Zanoni, Manfredi, Escrig, Maria Herrera in seventh, Filinello and Oradre in ninth. Hikaru Kubo, no time set after that crash at the final turn. He will start from last on the grid. Join us next time, well, up next immediately in 1 minute time for Moto E Q2. The fight for pole position begins. We'll see you in a minute. Well then, welcome back. Q2 underway very shortly. I think I can see an oyster catcher down there on the grass on the inside of turn one. Fantastic stuff. Great to see them back. Hopefully they got a nest in the gravel trap well out the way of any motorcycles careering towards them this weekend. We'll see a lovely shot at the end of Sunday's race there of them coming back to the nest and looking after their well camouflaged eggs and young ones. Well then, it's a little bit windy, not too much, but it has helped dry off the track for this afternoon's Moto E action. And these are the riders that you'll be seeing in Q2. So we don't have Jordi Torres and Kevin Zanoni, guys. We do not have them through from Q1. So let's just ignore that. It's actually Dominic Aegerter and Hector Garzo coming through from Q1. Really do hope by the time we get to wherever our next race is, Austria, we get this one nailed. Would really help us out, not confuse us and throw us off. Eric Granado will be in this session though, along with Mikel Pons, Matteo Ferrari, Mattia Casadei, Nicolo Caliper, Mark Alcoba, Xavi Forres and Bradley Smith starting his Moto E season. How about that? But before we do get underway, let's head down to pit lane. Fran Wild, what's going on down where you are?
Got a couple of updates. One is finally had a very quick word with Bradley Smith. Didn't want to annoy him on the live before he's about to head out. Obviously, great job by him to already be in that top 8. And he says he's not really had enough laps yet to really figure out how he's feeling. But then also Moto E race here, not that many laps, of course. And yeah, feeling pretty up for it. So great to see him back on track. Second update is Akubo's headed to the medical centre to check out his leg. That's why he's gone there. And the third one was was actually a poll prediction from our Moto E resident superfan, Dennis Onju, who thinks it might be Dominic Egerter after that track time in Q1.
Well, interesting, Fran. Yeah, thanks for those updates. Very useful, as always. And yes, I echo your thoughts. Great performance by Bradley Smith earlier today. And good to see him back, making his debut at a Moto E round this year. Bradley obviously had that crash at the Le Mans 24-hour race before we had the first round of the season. And really unfortunate incident there. Collision, I think, broke a vertebrae in his back. And Bradley, wasn't passed fit. I think he was in Mugello. Didn't pass a fitness test there.
He did come to Mugello, yeah. He was quite confident and being all right, but yes, we're not really. I mean, now that Bradley Smith is actually here for more than just sort of medical check in a day, I'd love to have a catch up with him and understand what's been going on, what's his sort of recovery process been, and the extent of his real injuries, because I've not really heard too many details, to be honest. The only details to know is that he had a start line incident at the Le Mans 24-hour race where he was hit from behind by someone, and I believe it's some issue with his back that he had. So, and the doctors, both time he came to the medical check, didn't like the look of it and said better not. So yeah, safety first for Bradley, not taking part. But this is his teammate Nicolo Canepa. We spoke to him before. Well, Fran did. We just heard from him, the happy chappy. And we'll see if he actually gets his second Moto E podium at any point this weekend.
Yeah, he was Mr. Consistency at Mugello with a pair of 6th places in both the races there. So that follows on the back of a really strong French GP for him, where he scored 8th and 3rd. Canepa having his best season to date in the Moto E category. And good to see this man up there as well, Chefi Flores. We were expecting at the start of the season to see Flores maybe fighting at the front of Moto E races, given his pedigree and his quality experience, but we haven't seen him inside the top 10 just yet. But obviously, big story this weekend, the comeback of Bradley Smith, also the comeback of the reigning champ Jordi Torres. How did he get on in Q1? We're going to pass down to Fran.
We are indeed a headline story this weekend, Jordi. You're back with us, and you just said then, not too much pain. You're trying to adjust your position on the bike a little bit. How are you feeling, though, after you've had some wet time and some dry time? All more or less okay?
Yeah, more or less okay, but for us it's important to do some laps to adjust my riding style, because now I don't can to push too much with my legs, and I try to do a different riding style. But for sure, tomorrow we'll learn more during the race. But for a few, we don't enter to Q2. But anyway, we are happy with our results, and we continue to fighting.
I was going to say, you should be happy because it was very close. So it's great to see you back. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to hear Jordi Torres doing rather well, and of course he's having to overcompensate a bit, isn't he, for lack of leg strength at the moment. So fair play to him for getting out there and doing what he does, as we see Bradley Smith finally begin Moto E action and an official race weekend. First rider out, I bet he couldn't wait, and of course he needs all the track time that he can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Bradley playing a bit of catch-up in this championship, obviously lacking 3 rounds of experience that the rest of his rivals, or the majority of his rivals, have on him. We just saw Marc Alcoba there. He was probably the surprise package of the race in Italy that we had, right, Matt, where he crossed the line in 3rd in race 2, but was then demoted down to 7th place, which is quite unfortunate. It was an all-action performance from Alcoba in that particular outing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, big shame for him. But he got the photos of him on the podium at Mugello in his home GP, which I suppose he never really anticipated previously. So good for him. Casadei heads out as well, more determined than ever. Eric Granado getting ready too. So clearly saving themselves a bit. They know they're going to get mainly one run at this, aren't they, with the tyres that they've got at hand. So they await. So what about Marc Alcoba heading out as well? So here they go then. Letting other riders get most of an outlap in before they themselves head out. Of course, Marc Alcoba got podium last time out as well in Mugello. No, sorry, not quite. We saw him and we heard from him.
He crossed the line in 3rd, but
it was good to...
After later amendments, yes. He was shuffled down the order, was the Spaniard.
It was good to hear from him anyways.
It was. Yeah, but that was definitely his best performance in this category to date. These are some repairs by the looks of things going on
I
to
think he's
Domi
just had a
Egerter's.
bit of a recharge, isn't it? Like the speedy recharge, and they have to do it underneath the seat. So he's about to head back out shortly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the sounds of things, it appears that the Intact GP squad are hoping to expand their presence in the Moto E World Cup next year. They are very hopeful of running 2 riders. Remains to be seen whether Domi Egerter will be one of those. He obviously has intentions of moving up to the World Superbike Championship. But Jesko Raffin, former Moto 2 rider and top 10 finisher, top 6 finisher, I think, on a couple of occasions. Swiss rider, could well be one of their names next year. So we'll have to see whether Intact managed to expand their presence in this class.
Yeah, that would be good news, wouldn't it? Of course, all changed next year as well, with Ducati changing as the official manufacturer of Moto E as well. So we'll see what sort of other changes that naturally can bring. Here's Bradley Smith then on his With You Moto E squad. Energica Ego Corsa, meanwhile, as he is coming round to set his first flying lap, just building confidence little bit by bit. Great to see Bradley return to action in Moto E, really, isn't it? Looking for that first Moto E win. He was in the debut season, of course, in 2019. He got second place in the Sachsenring, third place in Spielberg. Didn't get a podium in Misano, but got 2 second places in Valencia. Some cracking showdowns with Eric Granado, so he had back then. So good to see him back in action here this year.
Yeah, it really is. And we had Bradley down as a potential championship challenger, obviously, before his unfortunate crash at the Le Mans 24 Hour, which put him out all 3 races. But there's no reason to think that he can't be in the mix in the 3 rounds that we still have remaining, including this weekend here at Assen. As we see Ferrari coming through. Maven Mir now into the right left of Hoge Heide. Casadei, you can see, on a very good lap as well. It looks as though Ferrari and Casadei are pretty much even keel through sector number 3. Not much between them at all. It does seem that they're going to be heading to the top of the standings just here. So what can Ferrari do as he crosses the line? This could well be the fastest Moto E time we've had so far today, 44.6. Of course, remember, these guys, with the exception of Egerter and Garzo, this is the first time they've been in the dry at this track this year with these machines.
Yeah, quite right, Neil. So we'll keep an eye at the sort of progression as we see Eric Granado. Pole position specialist is the number 51, the all-time Moto E top winner. 7 victories to his name as well. He gets squirrely coming out of the GT chicane then. A 3rd place last time out in Mugello, race 1. 8th position in race 2, though. Of course, he got that 3rd position after Mantovani was docked some positions. But qualified 4th every race so far this year has Eric Granado. So I'm sure he'd love to get a pole position back again, because he was the pole position specialist properly last year, wasn't he?
He was, yep. And of course, the first time we came to this track, the TT Circuit Assen, with the Moto E World Cup was last year. And a certain Eric Granado won on that occasion as well. So does have good memories of this Dutch venue from 1 year ago. That was a really tight fight that he had with Jordi Torres and Alessandro Zacconi on that occasion. So yeah, Granado, I think, just by token of that, must come into this race as possibly the favourite.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, Neil. As we look at Ferrari on track here, looking as neat as he always does look, the number 11. Through then the GT chicane he comes, and out again. I would say rather neat. He runs it right to the edge of the curb, not over it. He does go provisional pole by 0.3 of a second. And this is interesting for Ferrari, because he did get that podium last time out. Well, there's good results. Positions 1 and 2 from 5th on the grid, both times of asking. So he doesn't need to be a front row starter to be a real threat for the victory. What about Granado, though, coming through the final chicane then?
Ooh, and a bit of a moment there for Mikel Pons coming through. Granado comes across the line, he retakes first, and it's a LCR 1-2 with Mikel Pons going second. Fran.
Yeah, I was just going to add on Granado. It was interesting what he said in the press conference. It was the last lap where he lost out so much in both races at Mugello. Obviously, there were those yellow flag incidents as well for a couple of riders, including Eric on Sunday. But it is interesting because he also said he doesn't think it's going to be like that here. Obviously, a very different track to Mugello. That main straight, we saw Egerter do a 4-for-1 deal into turn 1 at one point as well. So it could be an interesting one. Maybe Mugello a bit of an outlier, but also likely coming into this weekend, Granado kind of willing to get his elbows out on that last lap a little bit more, because consistency so far is a game Egerter's playing a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree with that, Fran. Absolutely. The championship table doesn't lie so far. And yeah, if you go off last race at this track, it was a little more spread out, but we still had a really exciting three-rider fight for the victory. But Mugello was just mental, wasn't it? Crazy how many riders were in the fight up until the end. And of course, Granado lost his mudguard in the first race when he had contact coming down to Scarperia, I think.
With Nicolo Canepa, I think it was, as well.
Yeah, and he said that affected his top speed then, which he caused him to lose positions on the run to San Donato. So we're seeing some more lap times then. Casadei 5th, Egerter 2nd. But once again, Granado looking really, really quite strong on his latest lap.
Last year, of course, with full dry running, we had an e-pole, so just one lap, I think it was, 143s down to the top 8 riders. So only 143 so far, belonging to Eric Granado. Everybody else on 144. So I think we're seeing a demonstration of the lack of track time that they've had in these sorts of conditions so far. That's why we're seeing Granado, the likes of Granado, improve his lap time by such large time margins, sector by sector, as Ferrari 2 was actually set a really good first split this time around. 1 minute to go then, and I think well, we'll be lucky to see any more riders come too much quicker, as Egerter has gone under by 0.015 at the second split. There it is on your screens now. We'll start tracking him from here on in. He's on a pretty much the same area of the track as Mattia Casadei, and Mrs. Matteo Ferrari just a bit further up the road through Holger Heide.
Does look good, doesn't he, Ferrari? Although he has lost time in that third sector. We will need to keep an eye on Egerter, though. He is the danger man. He is on course to potentially take pole away from Granado right at the end. Granado is also on a quick lap. He's just a 10th off through sector number 2 of his own personal best.
Yeah, across the line he comes then. Personal best, near enough a 144 flat for Ferrari that time around. Casadei 10th slower than him in 5th place. And Egerter now goes provisional pole as well. 13 seconds left on the clock. Granado, well, he's in touch. He's 0.059 slower at the third split then. One more to go then for the Brazilian. But this will be, as it stands, the best qualifying performance of his season so far. Here he comes then across the line. Will he take anything out of Egerter? Across the line he comes. No, he doesn't. He loses a couple of tenths of a second, and that'll be second on the grid for Granado then. Or will it? Because Ferrari and Casadei have got red splits in the first sector. Ferrari is a 10th quicker at split number 1. So this could be a big lap coming in from the Italian. He loses 2 tenths, I should say, in that second split. But down the back straight he comes now. Or not, actually, it's the Bunt instead. I just got confused by the camera angle.
Exactly, easily done, Matt, for sure. Ferrari then, in this session, has been a little weaker than the likes of Egerter and Granado through sector 3 and 4, so he'll be doing extremely well if he manages to rescue second or first from here. As you can see, another 10th lost through split number 3. Casadei is going the same way, losing a little bit, but Casadei could well put it on the front row here with his last lap of this session. Here he is, number 27. Actually made a couple of appearances in the recent World Supersport round at Misano for MV Augusta. They were pretty impressed with how he performed. A pair of top 10 finishes in that particular event. Ferrari improves his time on third, but what about Casadei? Can he push the number 11 off the front row? No, he cannot. He is just a couple of hundredths of a second slower. But that's it then. You've got Egerter, Granado and Ferrari on the front row then for the 2 races here at the TT Circuit Assen, the Cathedral of Speed then. So
Well, it's actually as the championship stands, the World Cup standings, with Aegerter leading from Granado and Ferrari. Then that is your front row. I mean, could it be better set up?
And Cassidy and Pons.
Yeah, it's true actually. Yeah, so there you go. Well, that's pretty standard, isn't it? Could it be more well set up for the entry into the second half of the Moto E 2022 season? I think not.
Yeah, we've got the 3 challengers. Well, I guess the 4 challengers, starting from the first 4 positions. It's going to be all action down into turn 1 for the first race tomorrow.
I'd like to say as well, Denis Onju is very smug about that prediction, but great stuff from him. He's always in pit lane for Moto E.
He epitomises, loves it. This does Denis Onju. He loves all aspects of racing, doesn't he? Well then, great ride by Ferrari then for third to hold off Cassidy. Stop him coming on that front row. Yeah. Bradley Smith wasn't the slowest rider in that session either, actually. He beat both Mark Alcoba and Xavi Forés. Within 1.5 seconds it was the number 38 in his proper return to action here in Moto E, his first qualifying session. I think he's got to be happy with that, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. First front row start then for Eric Granado in 2022 in the Moto E World Cup. As Matt said earlier, 3 fourth places in qualifying so far, but he goes 2 better today. And considering the slightly strange circumstances and conditions that we've had today in this category, I think he can be pretty pleased with that. I mean, what, just 6 laps essentially, or 5 laps for Granado in the dry today at this track to get up to speed and, well, set a time for the front row. So good stuff from him. Also, first front row start off the season for Ferrari. His previous best in qualifying this year had been a 5th.
Well, the team is just waiting for Ferrari to come into Parc Ferme, so were we, to be fair. I wonder why it took so long. It wasn't a cool-down lap of a race, mate. It was qualifying. Because, of course, we'll have to speak to him first as well. So, quick celebrations, and off he'll go to have a natter with Fran about that qualifying session. What a great performance from one of your most recent race winner in the class. There he goes over to celebrate with his team. His first victory this season came last time out in Mugello, of course.
He's looking a lot more like the 2019 Matteo Ferrari, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is slightly ominous for his rivals. We didn't really see that at all last year, I don't think. Couldn't quite find the base setting to his liking. And, well, despite winning the final race of the year, we never really saw Ferrari in the championship fight through 2021. He did finish 3rd overall. But he said some changes to his setup at Mugello and some changes to his riding style really propelled him forward. And, well, the results don't lie since then.
There we go then. Ferrari, 3rd place on the grid for tomorrow's race. Eric Granado shaking hands with just about everybody he can. But let's hear from Ferrari then. He must have been chuffed with that front row for him off the back of that win back in Mugello. He's down in Parc Ferme with Fran.
So it's been a pretty good last few outings on track for you in Moto E. From the win, now on the front row, you must be very happy with that. It's a great position for tomorrow.
Yeah, really happy about that because it was really difficult at the beginning. You know, when you start the first session with wet condition and then sunny day, it's really strange, but I improve lap by lap, good pace. And of course we have to improve something on the bike because this is the first session on dry condition. But yeah, really close to the front, so ready for tomorrow. This is my first front row of the season, so really happy about that.
Well, congratulations.
Ciao.
Always entertaining is Ferrari then, a real great ambassador for the sport, of course. Here he is then, brilliant stuff. So neat and tidy is the Italian. See the bits of rubber flying off the rear wheel as he tortures those tyres. Throws it through Hogerheide. I did my best Dutch accent, really tried. I hope our mate David Emmett is proud. And you, Neil, you're basically a native speaker now.
Yeah, beautiful. Really proud of you, mate.
Thank you. Well, obrigado. Here is Eric Granado down in Parc Ferme with Fran. Then his first front row of the season. And how does he feel about it?
Indeed it is. Your first front row of the season, Eric, like we said. And you're in championship order as well on the front row of the grid, so it's pretty interesting. Congratulations. You must be happy with how the weekend's gone so far.
Yes, I'm happy. You know, we are competitive in both conditions, in wet and dry. We didn't have so much time on dry track, so it's difficult to have the perfect setup. Finally, I was feeling good. I was not 100% with the bike, and also myself, I need to do more laps to get the rhythm. But finally, we were competitive. I'm happy with the front row. The first one for me this year. I was missing the Parc Fermé, so yeah, I hope to be here tomorrow and Sunday. And yeah, let's go for the race. I'm very excited for it.
Well, congratulations. Great to see you back on top.
Obrigado, valeu.
Nice one, Fran, and thank you to Eric Granado, back on the front row for the first time in 2022.
Whoa, all action in it. Look at that, yeah.
And with the, well, obviously the cancellation of the Finnish GP this year, we just have 6 rounds rather than the scheduled 7 in the Moto E World Cup. And, well, you can't really let Dominic Egerter get too many more points, otherwise it's starting to look like an insurmountable gap in the championship. So Granado does need to attack this weekend and get some of those 29 points back on the number 77, even just to try and halt Tommy's momentum as well, because he's obviously gained some fantastic results in Supersport and in the Moto E World Cup, and a second pole position on the bounce. Did it at Mugello, and he's done it again at Assen.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you, Neil. It's got to be attack mode for Eric. But what about Dominic Egerter, your pole position rider, top of the standings? How does he feel about today's pole, Fran?
Well, Dommy, you're in points order on the front row of the grid, which makes it extra interesting, but you just couldn't be beaten there. Was it the extra time from Q1, track experience, your experience? Talk us through it, and congrats on the pole.
Yeah, thank you very much. For sure, I have a lot of experience in this track. I ride 2 months ago here, successful in the Supersport with Tenkate, 2 wins and also a pole position. And this morning was wet. The second practice was cancelled. I was in P12, so I needed to go through Q1. And for sure, it helps when you have 5 laps more track time, so we could check quickly the data. I could speak with my crew. And the Dina Volt Intact GP team, they make a fantastic job. They make a small change, and I felt a little bit better. I could go faster, and for sure it's important for the next 2 races, tomorrow and Sunday, to start from pole position and yeah, try to fight for the podium or for the victory.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy, and thanks, Fran, then. Excellent stuff. He's going to use all that experience from the World Supersport Championship a couple of months ago then, and gosh, how much does he want to be, you know, simultaneously in 1 year, Moto E World Cup winner and World Supersport Champion, 2 sort of world level series wins all in one. How about that? Can he do it? Can he get victory here tomorrow as well? Dominic Egerter will start both races from pole position here ahead of Eric Granado and Matteo Ferrari. They'll be your front row from Mattia Casadei, Mikel Pons and Nicolo Canepa. Row 3 will be Garzo, Smith and Alcoba. Minus Alcoba, that's a bit of a throwback to 2019. Forres, Torres and Zanoni will be the row after that, with Manfredi, Iskrig and Herrera. Finello and Oradre there down into P17. Kario Kubo just gone to the medical centre for a checkup due to some pain in his left leg or foot. I think I just got the message through, but hopefully he's all right. We saw him standing and chatting to a team member, so that's good news. Thanks for joining us here today for, well, Free Practice Friday and of course Moto E qualifying. Tomorrow is race day in Moto E. You won't want to miss it, and also qualifying day in the Grands Prix categories. We're gonna, well, I don't know what we're doing tonight. What are we doing? Food? Obviously we're having food. Maybe pizza barbecue. Anyways, I'll let you know, everybody. I know you really want to hear it. Bye.